Hey guys, it's me again. This is our 18th time hanging out. Today, let's talk about a childhood story involving me and my older cousin. When I was little, I lived at my grandma's house for a while. Back then, my cousin was the only kid around my age, so we hung out all the time. My cousin was pretty chubby as a kid, and she was always taller than me, so overall, she just looked really big and tall. Me, on the other hand, I was a super picky eater and extremely scrawny. When we were getting along, we were the best of friends, but when things went south, it was a total nightmare. Because she was so big and I was so short and skinny, I had absolutely zero chance of beating her in a fight. She used to boss me around all the time, making me do chores for her, like fetching her socks or shoes. If I tried to fight back, she'd just beat me up. So, even though I was secretly fuming on the inside, I had no choice but to bite my tongue and do what I was told, purely out of fear of her brute strength. But here's the thing about me, I've always had a bit of a rebellious streak since I was a kid, which definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. At the same time, though, I was kind of a coward, so I'd always come up with the weirdest, most passive aggressive ways to get my revenge. For example, being constantly bossed around by my cousin made me furious. But after realizing I couldn't take her in a physical fight, I just played the part of the obedient little helper while secretly biding my time to strike back. Hard work pays off, and I finally discovered her weakness. Well, to be fair, it's a weakness everyone has. I realized that a person is at their absolute most vulnerable and defenseless when they are using the bathroom. So one day, when my cousin went to the bathroom to poop, I waited until she was right in the middle of her business, burst in, and shoved her straight to the ground. Terrified of her wrath, I bolted the second I did it. I ran out the front door and was too scared to go back, knowing I'd definitely get a beating. But you can't just never go home, right? I stayed outside for a long time until I had absolutely no choice but to go back. As I reached the door, I could hear my cousin crying and tattling to the adults about how I pushed her. Unsurprisingly, the moment I walked in, I got chewed out by the adults. I just stood there and took the scolding without saying a single word in my defense. In my mind, even if I explained that I only did it to blow off steam from being bullied all the time, what difference would it make? If talking it out actually worked, I wouldn't have had to resort to such a dirty trick in the first place. Sigh. Hearing this, you might be thinking my cousin was this awful bully. But honestly, she wasn't a bad person at all. Let me tell you another story. Like I mentioned earlier, I was short and scrawny, so not only did I get picked on by my cousin at home, but I also got bullied by kids at school. When I was in kindergarten, there was this girl in my class who was also big and chubby. She didn't bother anyone else, she just loved picking on me. She'd always force me to do things for her, and if I refused, she'd hit me. The teachers literally saw it happening, but they just turned a blind eye. I was constantly bullied by her until it was almost time for elementary school. Back then, there was this weird system where, in the year before officially starting elementary school, the kindergarteners would move to the elementary school campus early to get used to it. Coincidentally, my cousin went to that exact same school. One day, I just couldn't take the bullying anymore, so I went home and told my cousin that someone kept hitting me. She was furious. The next day at school, she told me to point the girl out. My cousin marched right over, beat up the bully, and warned her to never mess with me again. You probably think this story has a happy ending, right? Nope. After my cousin warned her, the bully went straight to the teacher and tattled. The teacher ended up catching my cousin and giving her a huge lecture. Sigh. So yeah, human nature is pretty complex and multidimensional. It really just depends on what angle you're looking from. Depending on your perspective, your evaluation of someone could be completely the opposite. That's all for today's little story. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. I'm Ping, a new YouTuber, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.